goal was to develop 5 moves because I like anime and moves are cool. I only got 4 at the time of the filming of this video, but just give you a short explanation. So the first one, just the motions of the weapon, are an understrike that leads into an overstrike. So when used against another red sworder, it really is trying to attack 2 things very swiftly from odd angles. So if I come under here, it forces an opponent to try to put their sword in a very odd position to simply come back around. This first shot can be a full shot, or it can be faked. You know, to not be a full shot, just to come over on the shoulder. Someone with the board, which is what the initial creation of this was for, and so I could threaten the board or a single strike. So whenever they go to strike me, I could just come over on that arm. So if I step or do this and they swing over, I could just chop down on that arm with more force. All right, so move number 2, angle here. So with the step, boom, overhand throw. Boom. If I wanted to try doing it the other way, boom. Most important of it, taking the top hand and the turn, turning the elbow up on the bottom hand, boom. Even going the other way. Second. So just the motion for this one. This one was initially made to kill other red sword fighters because I don't know. I get prideful whenever I fight other red sword fighters. I just want to kill them. And this one was actually mostly inspired by Dozer. Like I think I saw him do something similar to this a few times. I think we have like the 2 moves we do are super close and what they look like, but I think we use them a little bit differently. So this one starts out with the initial setup being up here, trying to get people to raise their guard up over here. And instead of coming straight down, I think that's how those was, just around to the other side, I actually step and cut. So using my hands to, instead of coming all the way around for a more powerful strike, I cut and cheat the angle pushing my hands forward as opposed to up. Up will leave your hands up here and you're not guarding yourself. Forward leaves your hands in front of you still, so possibly get a block off. And then a continuation strike as you strike your opponent in this manner. So really just very slowly. Against the person with a board, especially righty boardsmen, what I'm trying to do, so it's the complete opposite of the first one, right? Here I'm throwing this shot to seal off their swords so they cannot swing, and then to take a strike at their shield or a second strike at their leg afterwards. So I'm taking the initiative to trap their weapon with a powerful strike and then strike them afterwards. So you see that from a different angle? So from a different angle, all these are done with the step, but I'll do the first few initial movements without the step just so you're coming around, cut, so around. Remember, don't go all the way around. You get up to about the shoulder of our opponent, and then we cut over using the push and pull motion again. So I just take my hands, rotate this to cut straight through there. So if I step, cut, secondary strike, up, cut, secondary strike. This doesn't really work going the other way unless you swap hands, and the other way is a variation, and the variations will get on to a different video. So moving on to number 3. Number 3 is super simple. And the idea behind it is, I don't really need all the force in the world to stab a person. So most people do a stab, they take their rear hand, they line it up with their hip, they do this super powerful thrust, and I just don't need to punch people in the gut with my rib like that. It's a little bit unnecessary. Sometimes you need the power, sometimes you need maybe the extra reach and things of that nature, but 9 times out of 10, I just don't feel like it's really needed to stab someone that hard one-handed. Like that's two-handed force in one hand, and if they have armor, they're just gonna call armor and hit you for it. So at that point, you might as well stab two-handed. So instead, I slide my hands all the way down to the bottom of my sword. So if I wasn't wearing my gloves, my hands were right here. Slide my hand all the way down to the bottom grip. I simply take a step in and attack with the hand that is on top, as opposed to the hand that is at the rear of the sword. You should be turning your elbow and wrist in to prevent the sword from sliding up in any manner. So whether you turn in or you turn out, doesn't really matter. One's not worse than the other. But as long as you turn your hand to prevent it from sliding up, you'll push your opponent in for a stab. This comes a lot closer to your opponent. The initial motion isn't as far away. 2, it's a lot shorter. Whenever people throw this stab, they throw with all this emphasis, and if I happen to miss Flint here, so let's say he dodges, I am just kind of so far out of it, I'm super overextended, and it's like, oh no, this is the worst thing in the world. Whereas if I take this half a step for this move, and let's say he just blocks it with his sword, my hand is still close to bring back in its position, and I'm not thrown so far off because there's not as much commitment into the stab. And honestly, you could throw this anywhere you want. Also, this stab is a little bit easier to control. Or if you want to stab a boardman, you can just kind of line your stab up and then go for a non-committal stab just there, just boom. It doesn't hit as hard, so if you don't step into it properly or you misjudge the distance, it might be a little bit light. But I'll put the fear of, hey, I can put my sword there at any given moment into it. So if you want to see that from a different angle.
This is the POV shot?
Yeah. Alright, so
Don't get my face.
just from this angle, boom, just forward hand. It's a small step, not even a whole step like you would step in to fight with, just enough to get there and push into your opponent.
Tell us how you feel your fear.
So even if you wanted to stab like legs, it would just go down. Want to stab shoulder, just there. Just a very quick stab, a very quick in and out, just boom, bang. That's it. Super simple concept. Also, when people push your weapon down, if they push it down and you're using the backhand to stab like normal, they have a lot of control over your weapon. If you do that while using the forehand stab or the above hand stab, you have more control over where your weapon goes. My weapon doesn't go way out here or way out there. It only goes a little bit offline, meaning I could still fight overall. So, lastly, the fourth one is honestly just a barrage of strikes, and it's really determined on what you need. So if I'm fighting Flint and I decide, all right, I just need to kill him, or I need to get several quick hits in, I might start this off by batting his weapon away and then 1, 2. The only thing I don't do is I won't go for multiple strikes in the same location. So if he does somehow get a block out of me just like striking his weapon first, boom, this isn't doing anything. Whereas 1, 2, 3 is a bit more overwhelming. The goal is to overwhelm your opponent either with very fast strikes in multiple locations, or in terms of like a sword and border, if you catch the drop on them, you might be able to get several powerful strikes off to break through the shield. But even then, I'm not going to go 1, 2, so on and so forth. I'm mainly going to do something like 1, 2, 3. Something to threaten multiple locations. So even if I wanted to seal his sword off with one of those strikes, I could be like 1, 2, 3. Something to really throw them off their game. They won't be able to react to all the strikes from the range you're throwing out, or the power you might be throwing out. You just decide what you need. Do I need someone dead? Do I need the shield broken? If there are multiple opponents, I might use one to threaten him, the next to kill his buddy, the next to leg him, the next to leg his buddy and kill that person too. So it really comes down to how creative you can get with the necessary strikes, but it really is just a succession of strikes, filling whatever goal you need successive strikes for. There's no real reason to go after multiple angles. It's just the concept of multiple strikes for that purpose. I don't have a fifth one yet. I'm coming up with it. I want it to be something ridiculous, but this is really not how I fight. So when I come up with the fifth one, it'll have its own video.
Go for some couple of them with us.
Sure. So
Hang on.
full form number one. Number one and full force for this week.
Hey, nope. The autofocus is still weird. No, just keep trying.
Number two. I'm not going to super stab you on this one. So number three. And number four is going to look different every time you do it, but for the idea, so if I wanted to pin his weapons up. And number five, giant question mark here if I knew how to edit, but I'm not that cool. Alright, so that's all I have for right now. We'll do a different video on variations of these moves.